Hi, everyone. So my name is Renee Kelly, and I'm going to briefly discuss who I am and what I teach. I work at Manheim Township School District, specifically at the Landis Run Intermediate School. So I only teach sixth grade ELA, and I have about 3 cores a day and teach close to 90 students. Some hobbies and interests that I have include traveling, which sadly I'm not able to do as much this past year, and photography. I have my own side business that if I do have the time, I love doing in the summers. In addition to that, I also have 2 cats, so I'm a big cat lover, and I also love drinking coffee every day. Now, as far as this week's module, module 2, some key shifts. There's the next slide there. Include letting teachers play to their strengths. So I really loved in that video how it outlined that, one teacher doesn't have to be everything to a classroom. They can really hone in on a strength that they have so that other teachers can also implement their own strengths and really have a holistic grouping of what teachers can bring to the whole entire building. And I think that that's amazing. I really do wish that I had more of that in the school that I currently teach at. Another key shift, or even a key shift that's going to be easy that I believe I can do in my own classroom, is to be a facilitator. So I know that one of the big shifts in online learning or blended learning is to let students work at their own pace and work as individuals. And being a facilitator is something that I already kind of do with the classwork that I assign. And I just kind of monitor, make sure that students have, like the minimum pace that they're working at. And I think that that'll be something that's easy to keep up with. As far as a challenge, I believe that specifically in teaching ELA, it is challenging to constantly monitor where my students are at and give timely feedback when it comes to writing. So I have to teach TDAs, which are very long papers that my students have to write. And it definitely is a process. We start at paragraphs and then work into full-blown essays, into 5 paragraphs, which in many of my students end up writing 2 to 3 page papers. It's very hard to read those really, really quickly, give feedback, and be able to regroup students according to that feedback. So that's one area that I think I will have a challenge in. Another challenge is being a specialist without much admin help. And what I mean by that is that the school that I work at, we have teams that we teach on where there's 2 ELA teachers, 2 math teachers, and then a science and a social studies teacher. And all together as a group, we do have time to plan together. But the one ELE teacher that I have on my team already has her whole entire curriculum for the year set out, and she doesn't like to do what other teachers do. So I don't have time to plan with her necessarily, or the chance to. And then as far as the other ELA teachers on the whole entire school district, I would love more time to plan with them, but that just isn't really there unless we plan before school or after school, which I do sometimes with another 6th grade English teacher who works on the floor above me. So that's another challenge. As far as local constraints in implementing blended learning, I had 2 here. One is the no common planning time for ELA teachers, which I described a little bit before. And another one that I specifically have is that on the 3 floors, there are technically 6 ELA teachers in my building. All of us are essentially teaching different curriculum, especially next year. There are groups of 2 teachers that are going to be piloting a new program, and that makes it even harder to plan for blended learning when we're each doing different things. Now, the reason why my school district is doing that is so that we can try to buy a full type of curriculum for the next years, but it's hard to get momentum growing when you don't know what your curriculum is yet and everyone's kind of doing their own thing. 5 or 6 things that I thought were important across the readings. I'll kind of do 2 at a time here. One of the first 2 I kind of clumped together, and these are collaboration between educators and proactively initiating change. Because of all of the local constraints and challenges that I have, I personally thought that it was very important for there to be collaboration between educators. And I do want to proactively initiate more change so that we, as ELA teachers, uh, can have that planning time and can really move forward with blended learning because it does take a whole team to do. And I think that there are a lot of strengths that all of us can bring together to help our students. In addition to that, I wanted to go and kind of say something that I really want to try to implement going forward, and that is to talk to my administration and trying to advocate for that time implementation within the school year so that teachers really can actually plan together. Two more important things that I found from the readings were that there is a continuous planning, modeling, and evaluating, I guess, cycle within blended learning, which I thought was very interesting, and especially how it focuses on it being like teacher and administrator led. As well as the pre-pilot and the pilot stage. For some reason in my head, I always believed that blended learning would be something that would come from administration and not necessarily always be like the catalyst would be like maybe just a group of teachers starting it. But I do like having read that and how, there is a pre-pilot stage where, teachers can very small group try out different modes of blended learning for a couple months and expect to fail, which I think that in a lot of ways we as teachers have to be prepared for all the time. But I liked that the book did bring up that, the pre-pilot stage is just as important as the pilot stage, if not more important. And being prepared to fail and change things and having that growth mindset is extremely important. And the fifth thing that I thought was interesting or important from the readings was being in a constant state of reflection. And that kind of ties into what I was talking about before, where there is that planning, modeling, and evaluating stage that is cyclical. So you're always in a constant state of reflection in general as an educator, but even more so with blended learning because sometimes things don't work. And from year to year, you always have to repost links. You always have to make sure that things are working the way that they should be, making sure that each year what you're doing in an online environment is helping the specific students that you have. Because even though you might have, many, many years of accumulated videos and lessons and online resources to use, you might need to change them up depending on the group of learners that you have that year. And so overall, some strengths and weaknesses that I believe that I bring to the table is being really good with technology. I am typically the go-to person on my Falcon team for fixing any issues, but a weakness that I have would be, I guess that I'm really new with the content and going into teaching sixth grade. I got the choice of picking between, the four subjects that I could teach, and ELA was actually at the very bottom of it. I was never very good at ELA, and I ended up getting ELA. So because I have probably a harder learning curve to get used to the content before I can really become adequate at teaching it, and then specifically teaching it in a blended learning format, I think that that's a big weakness that I have there. So I look forward to seeing your videos and commenting on them. Have a great rest of your day.